But there's a magic, I tell you, there's a magic. I remember when I first did this as a kid and being amazed to see from these dry little seeds that I've just started sprinkling in here, these lovely vegetables and flowers can grow just like that. Nature is an amazing thing. Hello. Welcome to another one of our gardening videos, and this video is really, it's in response to this amazing kind of resilience that we're seeing around the world in the face of the coronavirus here in 2020, and I think it would be a shame if all we remembered of 2020 was the kind of all the negatives surrounding this this disease, this virus. One of the positives is that it seems that people have been almost forced to stay at home and think about what they could do with their family in their home. And of course, one of the things that we can do is gardening. And a lot of people have started to grow their own vegetables and flowers at home. Almost like in the old days, you know, in the Second World War, people dug for victory. There was this kind of big push to produce your own produce at home. And so today we're going to look at how you, whether it's an individual or a family, could grow some of your own vegetables, even if you haven't got a garden. Even if you've just got a little patch of lawn, or maybe just a balcony, you can still grow vegetables like carrots, for example, in a nice big pot like that. This is an old pot we found knocking around here in the school garden, and we're going to grow some carrot seeds in here, and within a couple of months, maybe 3 months, where we're now middle of March, I would hope by the maybe the end of June, we'd have some of these very, very sweet, tasty carrots to pull as and when we fancy them. You can eat them raw, or you can cook them up, you know, in a stew or a casserole. But there's a magic, I tell you, there's a magic. I remember when I first did this as a kid and being amazed to see from these dry little seeds that I've just started sprinkling in here, these lovely vegetables and flowers can grow just like that. Nature is an amazing thing. So what do you need? Well, you need to have a nice big pot. I wouldn't go small, I'd go large. If you want small carrots, go for a small pot. If you want large carrots, you need to have a large pot. And this is an old one. Make sure that there's drainage holes in the bottom. So we made lots of holes in the bottom here so that the excess water can run out. And then we need to get lots of good compost in there. Now, there is a temptation to get cheap and cheerful compost, you know, but what you give is what you get, in the words of Paul Weller. I always like to look not so much for the cheapest compost, but for the best compost, and actually the one that I use is not that expensive. But, and I'm not promoting any particular brand here, this is a blended compost, so rather than just being peat, it's actually got less than 50% peat. There's a big push at the moment towards using less peat, quite rightly, so we're not using up the world's precious resources. So this has got less than 50% peat in there. It's got other materials, it's got some soil. John Innes, you can see there on the bag, it includes some John Innes compost. Now, John Innes compost is soil based. It has got some peat, but it's got a whole range of other organic materials that have been kind of used, maybe recycled wood chip and so on. I'm not sure what they're using, but it's not peat. Blended in there to get the best of all worlds and to use less and less peat. There are peat-free composts out there, and maybe this year I need to try some again, because the last time I tried it, it wasn't much use, to be honest. This one is a fair compromise, good compost, and that costs me, I buy them 3 at a time, so 3 bags cost me about £15, so about £5 a bag, and I've used less than half a bag in here. I've used some old compost at the bottom of the pot, just tipped that in, but the top half of the pot has got this nice new compost, because the compost at the top is what's going to give these seeds the best possible start. So particularly in the top portion of the soil in the garden, or the top portion of the soil in the pot, get really good compost in there to give your seedlings a really good start. Don't underfill the pot. You can see that's full almost to the top there. Don't be tempted to half fill, because you know the pot will dry out too quickly. You just won't get the size of carrots. So the more volume of compost you've got, the more volume of carrot, in this case, we're going to get. So having filled that up, this is where it gets to the fun bit. We can open up our packet of seeds, and here's one I opened up earlier. And we're just going to sprinkle these very sparsely. We don't want to overdo it, and certainly don't do it in one go. I like to go over it a couple of times so I can fill the gaps. Let's see if I can give you a closer look at how I'm doing that. So there we go, you can see there's the seeds there, those little kind of pale coloured bits there. I suppose they're averaging about 1 centimetre apart. In old language, maybe, you know, half an inch or less apart. That's allowing for the fact that some of them may not germinate, some of them may germinate and then die off. We're probably going to end up with carrots about 1 inch apart, a couple of centimetres apart, once they've germinated. If you put too many seeds in, you'll just have too many carrots, and they'll all be tiny thin roots because they're too crowded. So I like to kind of not over sow, space them out. So I'm just going to finish that off, and then we're going to sprinkle some more compost on top. So there we go, finish these off. If you've got children, this is a great way to introduce children to the joys of gardening. Maybe they can have a pot each, or if they're going to share the same pot, give them half the amount each, and they can fill in the gaps. The second person who comes along to put some seed on can fill in the gaps from the first batch. So scattering these seeds evenly around the edges as well. I've used a good half a packet in there, assuming that we're only going to get about 50% of that germination. So I've got another half packet that I can use maybe in a month's time. We could do another potful, so that we've got a succession of carrots to pick through the summer and maybe into the autumn as well. So we've got our seeds scattered over the top, and I'm just going to come and have a look. I'm just going to tickle going to tickle the surface of the compost like that, very lightly, so that the seed that I've sown is just beneath the surface there. So I'm just, as I say, tickling the soil surface there, just scattering that soil. I'm going to go and get a little bit of compost and sprinkle a tiny bit of compost on top. There we go. Let's get some compost from there. Oh. And just going to very lightly, I've just got one handful of compost to do over the whole surface of the pot there. There we go, just sprinkling it over, and then again just give it a little tickle, brush it over, so that those seeds are covered with, well, just a few millimeters, maybe half a centimetre of compost. So for those things to grow, they need the compost. They've got really good compost there. They need some sunlight. I'm going to put it outside in the sun there. They need some water. We're going to give it some water. If they were too deep down, they would start to germinate, but then they're not going to get any light, and they're using up the energy that was stored in that seed, and if they're too deep down and they don't get into the light soon, they could fail. So we don't want to over cover them, not too deep. So the sooner that they can get their root growing down and their shoot coming up, as soon as that shoot is into the light, it'll start to photosynthesize. There's a long word for you, for no extra charge, and that means it's going to start to grow and take energy from the sun, and that will get them that'll get them growing. So let's go and put this outside and give it some water now. There you go. So there's our pot of carrot seed, and we're going to get a nice sprinkle on this watering can. There we go. A nice sprinkle on that watering can there, so we're not drowning them, and that water is quickly soaking in. That's all it needs. It's got sunlight, it's got soil, it's got water, we've got seeds. The temperature is right from now onwards, from the middle of March onwards. It'd be perfect for germination. I would expect us to wait a few weeks before we see any seed coming up, and we'll keep you posted by these videos. While you're here, these bags here, in case you're wondering, these are our potatoes that we're growing as part of a school project here. And even though the children aren't in the school at the moment, we're going to continue to nurture these so that when the children do come back sometime later in the summer or the autumn, they can harvest the potatoes which they helped start to grow just a week or so ago. So potatoes need to be buried beneath some compost. Now let's see if I can find one in here that we put in just a few days. Oh, here we go, here's one. So here's our potato, and it's got just a couple of little shoots starting on the top of the potato there, I can see. We bury him just beneath the soil surface. There's a few inches of soil beneath him, but with the potatoes, what's key is that as they send their shoots up, we keep on putting some more compost on top, and when they come through that level of compost, the leaves start to come through up here, we put some more compost on, because it's the portion of buried stem, the potato stem beneath the kind of the seed potato and where the leaves come from, that's the section of stem that produces the new potatoes. So we want to allow it to have these extended stems, which we keep on covering with compost, and that will give us maybe that much depth of compost into which we will grow our lovely new potatoes off those shoots. So it's a bit different with potatoes. You don't do them at the top of the surface of the pot. You can see on here they're way down below, so that we can grow those shoots up and get the potatoes growing underneath there. So you need to do it now, really. Early spring. March is a good time if you can still get the seed potatoes in the garden centres. If not, then you could, I suppose, in theory, find some of old potatoes that are starting to shoot and put them again towards the bottom of the pot, allow them to produce the shoots, keep on covering them with compost as they grow through, and you should be able to pick some potatoes by middle of summer through into the autumn. So there we go, we got a bonus there, a Brucey bonus of some potatoes and our original pot of carrots. So stay in touch with us, because in the next few days we'll have a look at some flowers we can grow, things like nasturtiums, really easy to grow flowers. Actually, you can eat them as well, quite peppery, like rocket. And we'll have a look at some other vegetables, maybe some lettuce and so on, that you could grow through the summer. Hope that's of use. Let me know if you've got any questions via our YouTube channel. Thanks.